Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Saunch here. Welcome back to another episode here on the Bodybuilding News Network, BNN. In this video, we're going to be recapping the 2022 Arnold Classic Brazil, aka the Arnold Classic South America. Now, looking at the scorecard, I don't think we were too surprised with who won the show, but gosh darn it, was I surprised with who ended up in second. Now, before I get too carried away, let's go ahead and roll some footage. I'll put it on the screen for you of some of the comparisons from the 1 and 2. Now, obviously, Rafael Brandao, Brandao, ended up winning and clinching this Olympia qualification. I do believe he is already qualified for the Olympia based off of his last showing at the the Romania Muscle Fest back in November. So he already was qualified for the Olympia, but to add another feather to that hat is absolutely fantastic to see from him. And historically, the last time we saw Rafael Brandao on the Arnold Brazil stage was back in 2019, where he placed second behind Juan Morel, actually. One of the last showings from Juan Morel before he took a break and is focusing on his cookie company and other entrepreneurial endeavors. But very happy with how Rafael Brandao showed up at this most recent showing, at this Arnold Brazil. Looking at the comparisons I put together for you fine people here, like I said, from the prejudging and from the preview video before the show even started, I thought that Rafael Brandao was going to bring a harder, sharper package than what we saw at the Romania last November. Now, that is what happened. I think he looks harder, at least a little bit harder. I think the lighting definitely helps a lot with accentuating some of the different pieces of his physique that really flow and pop better. I would like to see more conditioning, more separation in the biceps, maybe improving on the peak of the bicep. It does seem phenomenal, but there isn't a lot of peak to it, if you know what I mean. The separation from the bicep peak to the forearm, that would really be my only criticism from the side. Although you can't see it in these comparisons, I would like to see more hamstring drop. But overall, amazing package that Rafael Brandao brought to this Arnold Brazil victory, and we look forward to seeing him potentially at another show, but if not, at the Olympia back in Las Vegas this December. I still believe it's in the winter instead of October, but don't quote me on that. Now, second place, an absolute doozy for me. I thought I was very surprised that this Vitor Hugo Boff ended up knocking off who I thought was going to be battling it out potentially for the win, was Thiago Lins. But as history will show us here, the Arnold Brazil committee, the team down in Brazil, the South American team, they went for the more aesthetic, more streamlined physique, and also the more conditioned. Now, I think that Vitor and Thiago were both very comparable in conditioning. I think Thiago had a little bit more muscle, but Mr. Vitor Boff ended up having better proportions, better symmetry, and in my opinion, a much smaller, streamlined midsection. Looking at these comparison photos, and I'll even throw in a posing video for you to keep your attention, because I know your guys' retention sometimes is slacking after the few minutes, so I do appreciate all of you that stay by and watch the entire video. As always, I talk in depth, more personal stuff at the end of the videos, so if you're interested, stay tuned. But I really liked Vitor here. Thought he looked phenomenal, great structure, great proportions, tiny midsection. The conditioning I thought was so impressive, although you can't see it in these comparison shots. His front lat spread was freaky on how shredded and vascular and separated it was. So very impressed for Mr. Vitor Boff's pro debut after earning his pro card at the, the Amateur European East? Amateur Brazil, my bad. Amateur Brazil. But overall, phenomenal, great pro debut. Potentially, I've seen some conversations talking about he's the next big thing in men's open. Can't argue with that. I think he's definitely going to be a competitor that's going to be battling it out at some of these bigger tier 1 and tier 2 shows. So look forward to his future. Can't be any better. I mean, this guy coming into an Arnold Classic and placing top 2 is putting him in the tier of some of the bodybuilding greats of modern bodybuilding. So best of luck, Mr. Vitorboff, in the near future. Now, we've already talked about Thiago Lins slightly, just a little bit, but honestly, when I was watching the prejudging, I genuinely thought he was battling it out for the win here. Now, I do have a bias towards Rafael Brandao. I think his physique is very beautiful, and I am a little biased towards it. But, gosh darn it, Thiago Lins really made some improvements from his Puerto Rico Pro 10th place. Correct me if I'm wrong, 10th place last year. So coming from 10th place into top 3 at an Arnold Classic is phenomenal. Now, I will say that the only critique that I really want to give him, besides the midsection, I think he needs a little bit more midsection control in the transitions. We talked about that in prejudging. From the back, you can see a little bit of distension in the midsection. So another critique if we're being crazy here. But I don't know if he has some gynecomastia going on in the chest, but his pectorals really, they sag. Is that the right word? I don't want to be too critical here, but it definitely seems that something's going on in his pectoral area, the lower pectoral area around the nip. So not sure what's going on there, but if that's something he could fix either from posing or from surgery, I think that would benefit him very much coming into the near future. As long as he wants to continue being competitive in men's open, I think that would really help him get an extra step up among the competition here. Now, best of luck, obviously, Thiago Lins in the near future. William Martins. This was a surprise to me. I thought William Martins was going to be battling it out for the 1 and 2. And then emiromeragic, we'll talk about him in a second. I thought those were going to be your top 3. But wow, was I surprised? Was I wrong on some of these predictions? Some of the people I thought were going to be in this top 6 were not. So kudos to everyone who guessed right in the comment sections below. You did better than I did. But this Mr. William Martins, phenomenal. Now, I love his conditioning. I love his structure. But the only thing I don't like about his structure is his front double. I feel like he's losing a lot of points here in the aesthetics department, the way he's holding it. Now, I will say from my prejudging and from my preview video I did recommend to try the Nick Walker, crunch the abs, and potentially that would give him a little bit more points, potentially, from the judges, especially if the judges are looking for aesthetics, as I feel Brazilians love the classic look. And then also, I wanted to see a little bit more conditioning in the glutes. As you can see by these comparison shots I put together for you fine people, there is something to lack in the conditioning from the back. And you can see it in the lower back with the skin folding. You can see it in the lack of separation in the traps, the lower back, the hamstrings, the glutes. All around, I think he could have improved the conditioning. He was definitely not at 100%. So hopefully we get to see a better, more improved, more conditioned package from Mr. William Martins in the near future. There are a plethora of options here. If he can get to the US, the Indy Pro, the New York Pro, the Tampa Pro. If he can get to Canada, there's the Toronto Pro, I believe it's called. Unless there's there's another one I think that sometimes they do, but there's another. I think there's 2 big Canadian shows this year. So lots of options for Mr. William Martins competing in the near future in this 2022 competitive calendar. Best of luck, good sir, in the near future. In 5th place, emiromeragic. Y'all gotta let me know how to say that one. I think I'm really butchering it, but you guys haven't roasted me yet, so I don't know. Maybe I'm saying it right. But this guy, coming out of a top 2 finish in his pro debut over in the European Grand Prix Tour, one of those big shows, Big Man Evolution or one of those Portugal Pros shows, top 2. And then coming into this show, staying in the top 6. I had him in the top 3. That's just what I thought. I thought the structure, thought his conditioning and the momentum was going to get him in that top 2, maybe top 3. He ended up falling to top 5, which I think is very respectable for the competitive lineup that was here at the Arnold Brazil 2022, the Arnold South America. I will say that he still needs a few more years. He needs some more time to develop the thickness, the density, the from the back, the hamstrings, I think, need to add some girth and some width to it. The quads could use some more thickness, or potentially he could just try a different way of presenting them, because they have the separation, they have the conditioning, they have those cross striations all over the place, the feathering, the quads from the front look phenomenal. He just needs either a little bit more thickness and width, or he needs to present the muscle in a different way that's more pleasing to the judges. Besides that, I would like to see him do maybe a Nick Walker, crunch the abs and see how that looks, but you cannot critique a guy too heavily for rocking an awesome vacuum. And I think that Mr. Emir here does a phenomenal job at presenting a very beautiful and classic and fresh, very, very fresh physique in the men's open bodybuilding division. So best of luck to him in the near future. I expect him to do another show soon, as he was pretty solid for conditioning at this show. You can even see the Christmas tree action in the lower back. Finishing off the top 6, we have Alan Benedimon. Now, I did, apologies. I did mistake him for Eduardo Rodriguez. I do apologize for that, but another phenomenal pro debut at this year's Arnold Classic Brazil, Mr. Alan Benedimon, coming out of a pro card win at the very similar Puerto Rico Pro that Thiago Lins placed 10th in the men's open. Mr. Alan Benedimon, I'm never to get that one right. He won his pro card there, came into this show. I did have a little bit of criticism, although he has a phenomenal physique, great structure. I mean, really, really wide, taller gentleman, great structure, phenomenal quad definition, separation, striations, things of that nature, the feathering. I did think he looked almost too dark for the stage, and I think that might have hurt his placings. Now, I don't know how much the judges judge. The judges judge. That's a funny way to say it. I'm not sure how the judges compare and critique and judge how dark your tan is. I know that if it's complementary, and if the bronze and shiner and the oil are complementary, they usually give you a good look. But I almost think that how dark he was kind of took away from his placings. He also seems somewhat shallow from the back, the upper back. Definitely could use some more thickness, more development, to the same notion I gave to Mr. emiromeragic. I think that they had the same criticisms from me. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the top 6. I think it was a very, very good lineup for the Brazil. I'd like to see some more big names, but I know we're going to be getting that at the Indy Pro. We're going to be getting that at the New York Pro. And as we get later into the season, it seems historically that the bigger names seem to come out the later we get into the season. So stay tuned for that. As always, lots of bodybuilding coverage here on the Bodybuilding News Network. I just got off the phone with a gentleman. There's some very exciting things coming to the Bodybuilding News Network. So stay tuned for that, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very interesting year. 2023 is going to be really fun for us. So consider subscribing if you have not. For everyone else, if you guys are commenting, I do appreciate it. It does help the algorithm. And of course, more importantly, I enjoy having conversations with you. So let me know what you want to see next in the comment sections below. Check out my links if you want to support me in different facets. Like I said, subscribe if you're new. And if you haven't already, gosh darn it, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.